Aliens in the alley, UFOs in the sky, cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories are talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, the secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries, 5 great guests. Super chat, it's a wild member. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge here on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society here in Wisconsin. We got a great event coming up this weekend. We are going to be at SilCon in Gaze, Illinois. It is a paranormal, horror, anime, gaming, cosplay, and cryptid convention. It is going to be 2 days, Friday, September 19th, and Saturday, September 20th. I am bringing out the Hayden Adventure Traveling Exhibit. So if you're interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan, we are going to have the display down there, the whole museum, and I will be giving the presentation about the Hayden Adventure on Saturday afternoon. I believe it's at 1 or 2 p.m. I'll have to check on that, but I will be there, and you guys can come check that out if you haven't got a chance to see it. Then coming up, guys, in 2 weeks, we are headed down to Van Meter, Iowa for the Van Meter Visitor Festival, September 27th. It is going to be really cool, kicking off Friday, the 26th, with a VIP walking tour. And Saturday is the convention with speakers and vendors and more walking tours, giving you the highlights of all the sighting locations of the Van Meter Visitor. Always a good time down there. This October, if you're looking for something spooky to do, we are offering paranormal tours of Wisconsin's premier haunted gentlemen's club. It is a building over 100 years old with several recorded deaths in the building. We have had every bit of paranormal activity throughout the building, from full-bodied apparitions, people being touched, EVPs. All of our equipment has gone off at one time or another in the building, so it is a very active location. A lot of great stuff. Also featured on the television series My Haunted Hometown. So if you're interested in more information on that, to do a public tour or a private investigation, head on over to hauntedbeansnappers.com. Click on the spooky side. All right. And then coming up in October, I will be at the Shawano County Library, the Brownsville Public Library, and the Neenah Public Library. All of these events are going to be free for the public and are exploring the paranormal. We're going to teach you how to properly use paranormal equipment, why we use it, and how to keep yourself safe on investigations. After the presentations, we'll be doing live paranormal investigations of the libraries. So stick around afterwards if you want some spooky fun there as well. I know for a fact that both the Brownsville and the Shawano Public Library have told me that they have experienced paranormal activity in the library. So we'll see if Neenah lives up to the other two. But October 16th, 22nd, and 25th. All the information is at wisconsincaps.com/public events, or click on the public events tab for all the information on those events. Just announced, guys, I will be at the Contact Modalities Expo May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin. All kinds of great people there. A lot of former guests of my show as well, Jack Chavez and Jay Bachochin. And some other really great people are going to be there. So we'll talk more about that later. And then, of course, we are going to be at CapCon in May 8th through the 10th next year. And we'll leave it at that. So that's what we got coming up here. But, guys, we have an amazing guest here, and we are live. Kim, welcome to the show. So if you guys have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section, and we will get to them as soon as possible. With that being said, let's get to our guest. Well, my guest is using his phone to be on the show today, and as soon as I said, let's get to my guest, he dropped out of the background there. So hopefully he will be back with us. My guest is Robert Lemle. He is a retired truck driver, a father of 5 kids, and a grandpa to 4 grandsons. He is an outdoorsman who likes to camp, fish, and hunt. Robert got into the cryptid scene after he had a strange vocalization experience in the woods in 1989. Since then, he has had 3 sightings and many other encounters. He has a YouTube channel where he shares some of his outings for others to see. And he still hasn't popped back up here. So as soon as he comes back, there we go. There we go. Robert's back on the show. All right. Robert,
I don't have to touch it. I just get near it and boop, I'm like, ah.
I told the audience, I said, as soon as we were going to announce you, boop, you dropped off. We're like, he'll be back.
I went to hit so I can see people's comments, and never mind. I won't do that again. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that.
Playing for real. Yeah, we are live, as you can tell. So if you have questions for my guest here throughout the show, feel free to throw them in the comments section. Kim as well here says hi. We will get to them as soon as possible. So don't worry. I will read the comments out for you so that you don't have to look.
I can see them now. Yeah. My hand's back. I won't touch.
Keep your hands up. Don't touch the phone. We'll be all right. Not a problem, man. Not a problem. But so welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I read your background while you were your bio while you were coming back here. So give us a little bit what happened in 1989. You said you heard some vocalizations.
I used when I was younger. I used to do a lot of deer hunting, and here in Ohio, where I'm from, and in northern Michigan. And I had a friend of mine who moved up there to Wexford County, Michigan, and I'm sure most of you people who are in crypto have heard of Wexford County, Michigan. Basically the home of the Michigan Dogman. Well, anyways, I was at my buddy's. It was a beautiful October day. I mean, the sun was shining. It was like 70 degrees. It was like noon, so I decided I'm going to come in and get a bite to eat. Take a break from my hunting. And So I ran into town, if you want to call it that, to the general store, grabbed a sandwich, something to drink, and I went for a ride, and I went way back up into the Manistee National Forest area. And I found this spot where, and, it's kind of hilly and stuff. And I found this spot where high power lines come through. You know how they cut the forest. And I thought, wow, what a great spot, the sun was shining. So I pulled off there and, dropped the tailgate on my truck, and I'm just sitting there. I got my sandwich and my drink. And just enjoying the time out there and enjoying the lunch. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing, at first, I thought it was elk bugling. And now there is elk in Michigan, and there was elk in Michigan back then, but back then, that was, back in '89. So that was, all the elk was like towards Mile, Michigan, 150 miles away on the other side of the state, like Huron National Forest. And not saying that they're not there, because there are, game farms, that people have there. But, I heard it again. I thought, that's not an elk, because, my hunting experience, I've heard them. I'm like, and I started listening to it again. I'm like, what is that? And it started to creep me out, because I didn't know. And well, I don't know what that is, and it's getting louder, and I'm not going to stick around to find out. I believed in Bigfoot back then, because I just one of those people. I remember as a kid laying in front of the TV seeing the Patterson-Gimlin film on TV when, back in the 60s, so, but yeah, that was my first experience. And ever since then, it's like, I want to, find out what caused that and what that was. And, it was weird.
So,
a couple of sightings.
Well, hang on. Let's stick with this for a little bit here. So, when you said that you never heard anything like this, sound like an elk bugling. Now, I'm not asking you to try and mimic it, but what did it sound? Did it sound, because you've brought up the Michigan Dogman area? So, did it sound like a dog howl wolf thing, or did it sound like a Bigfoot as we understand?
If I heard an elk bugle, I'd do it, but it was, I know not all elk sound the same, but it just wasn't the right place or time. It wasn't a howl like a wolf howl or werewolf or a dogman howl. It wasn't a whoop or howl from Bigfoot, which I've heard, but it may have been. They say Bigfoot can mimic a lot of things. But what really got my goat was about a month or two ago. I was getting ready to go to bed, and I was watching YouTube. I watch all the things on YouTube, and I come across one thing. I was watching it, and a thing about Wendigos come up. Now, Wendigos creep me out. I don't, and they're talking about, noise, and the commentator, I don't know who it was at the time, but said that they can make a sound like an elk. That gave me goosebumps, because that brought back, and I'm going to kind of link this in with something. I thought, wow, okay. Because, that area is also known, I just seen the show last night when I got back from my investigation about Michigan dogmen, Bigfoot, Wendigos, because that's northern Michigan. The Ojibwas are in the UP, probably in your area where you're from, and I'm like, wow, that's, and it's always the Manistee. I don't know if you know much about the Manistee area, but it seems like in Michigan, all the weird things happen in the Manistee. But yeah, that's what got the ball rolling for me. And I'm beginning to wonder now, was it Dogman Bigfoot? I'm open. I'm leaning, maybe it was a Wendigo. It was creepy.
Was this, what time of year was this? This was like you're sitting on your tailgate. It's going to be pretty warm out, though.
October 1st, when bow season opens up in Michigan. So it was it was October 1st. Beautiful, beautiful. So, matter of fact, last year, there was I don't know if you know who Jason Kinsey is, and I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mhm.
The Sheepwalkers, I'm sure you've heard of them. And,
Yep, they've been on the show. Yep.
Guthrie and all. They had a thing going on in northern Michigan in the general area. I'm not going to give exact location, but not far from Reed City. If you heard of Reed City, that's like Dogman Central for Michigan, pretty much, but not far from there. So I'm friends with all them, and I went up there. So while I was there, I had a buddy of mine. I said, "You want to ride with me?" I said, "Cause after that, I went, said hi to all of them, and and everything, and talked to Jason. And he kind of documented my stories and stuff. And then we went back to the place where I had my first sighting, and it was kind of weird, but." We're talking 89, so that was 40 years ago, just about, something like that, close to it. And if not more, whatever. It's changed a lot. Like they went in there and they logged it, but what they did, because I'm similar to you, how they got the poplar trees everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut those all down and just left them lay. So you couldn't. There's no way navigation through that stuff. It was terrible, but it was neat to go back. And we're actually going to go back up in that area again here in October, mid-October. We're going back. Same people with me. I don't know if you ever heard of Chad, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Sherry Bianca, and we're going back to the same place we were last year. We're going to have a little, kind of like a free little Bigfoot conference in a small town. Nothing major, but I'm going back. I'm going to find out what it was.
Absolutely. So you said that you were into the Patterson Gimlin film and all that stuff, prior to your vocalization encounter. Were you like, take me back to then, was Dogman or anything even on anyone's mind, or when did that start playing a factor in anybody's views?
That was before you were a twinkle in your mom and dad's eyes.
I'm 87, so at least I was alive.
Oh, really? Okay, well, this was back when TVs were a piece of furniture,
Yes.
not a frame on the wall, okay? I've always, I had an older brother, and my mom and I were always in the monster movies, the traditional Dracula, Frankenstein, the werewolf, teenage wolf, creature from Black Lagoon, who I think is probably the most likely to really exist, the way they did his outfit, by the way. That's just my thing, because if you look at it compared to all the other ones, and you got to admit, from back then, the makeup was great. But yeah, I've always been into monsters and the abnormal and paranormal. It's just a fascinating, but I'm also, I'm a dude, so cars, that's another big thing. But yeah, when it comes to that, and I've always been an outdoorsman, so, and then like after my experience, that really brought things back, and that's what really got my curiosity up. I was like, I gotta, but yeah, Patterson Gimlin, as soon as I saw that, it was like, wow, maybe I'm vulnerable, but I know I'm open-minded because, yeah, I've just always been into the monsters and ghosts, and if it's weird, I'm into it.
So, but do you know when? Linda Godfrey started the Beast of Bray Road Dogman stuff in the early '90s in Wisconsin here. But do you know any of the kind of like the history of like the Dogman for Michigan there, when people started reporting that and seeing it? Was it before Godfrey or?
It was about the same time, because 89, that was about the time, if you remember, in the Cadillac area, and they say, that DJ who wrote the song,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, that was Cadillac. That wasn't Traverse City. Okay. That was about the same time, but no, really, when it comes to the Dogman thing, that's only been the past couple of years since they gained popularity, because I'm not gonna lie. I'm still up in the air on the dogman. I mean, as much stuff as we're seeing now, they're probably out there, and some people are saying like, "Oh, they're something new." I don't think so. Was it the Nephilims or whatever from Egypt or wherever? The guys with the hyena heads or whatever they were. What were they called?
Anubis. Anubis.
Yeah,
in this group. Yeah.
Anubis, okay. So I think they've always been around, but are they dogmen? Are they werewolves? Are they something that's been around for 1,000 years? Are they man-made? I mean, who knows? What's that? Shoot, I can't think of it. The name of that island out there on outside of New York. You know what I'm talking about?
Montauk.
The what?
Montauk.
No, it's where the FDA has that plant, and now the Homeland Security took it over. Was that the Bird Island or whatever they call it, or something, where all the weird things supposedly they make.
I want to say there's another one. I was gonna say Montauk's out there. That's a genetics lab supposedly, and that's
Yeah, that won't be it. But then again, up there, like where I go in North Michigan, there's a town called Reed City, and I don't know if you guys ever seen Expedition Bigfoot, where they were out there by the airport. I know exactly where they were at. I know that area well, and according to what they dug up, I don't know, because there is that small airport there, and it's weird because Reed City it's just a little borough, man. It's a one light town, if that, and they got this airport, which, I mean, a lot of small towns, but the buildings, like, were air traffic controllers sitting on that. It's huge. I mean, for a small town airport, it's huge. And supposedly it was made by a guy who owned a manufacturing company up there or something to warehouse and fly his products out. But that fell through. And I don't know the story for so please don't quote me, but the government took it over, and that supposedly they were, this is just theory from what I heard or speculation. I don't know if it's true, where they were like, I don't want to say storing, but, training and dogmen and stuff like that, because, the story of the truck driver up there where on Route 131 going through there where he shot the dogman from his big truck, that story. Mm-hmm. And then the government came in, or the Men in Black, whatever you want to call them, come in and said, "You killed one of our assets," or whatever. How are they an asset? Why? Mm-hmm. But, yep.
Yeah, you hear a lot of sighting reports of them around military bases and power plants and cemeteries and quarries, which I think is really weird. Now, you could look at that two different ways, because obviously they're secluded areas, usually fenced off, remote, or is there something else going on as to why they're there? But really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, but I'm more into Bigfoot thing, and like I say, getting into that weird stuff. I was going to tell you, like last year, when I talk about that sound, same as a Wendigo, an area I research a lot, just north of me. I'm not going to give detail. I'll just say it's within the Irish Hills area of southern Michigan. Okay, it's a little hilly. I mean, it's like Irish Hills, swampy, real swampy. But last year, me and my partner, or teammate, whatever you want to call my friend Todd, who does Bigfoot Recon with me, he lives kind of on lake. Well, we went on the backside where they got the boat launch, and there has been all kinds of weird things happening around the boat launch. So we went there, and I just got, maybe it was 2 years ago. I got a Bushnell night vision binocular. It records this and all that, So we pull in the parking lot, and Todd, he's got my parabolic mic, and he's, checking out sounds, and I'm looking off into the woods with my third gen night vision, my Bushnell, and there's a tree out there probably about as big around as me, and so I don't know, and I kept seeing, it looked like something kept looking, like was behind a tree and just kind of looking, but I couldn't catch it. I could see it through my binocular, but it wasn't recording it. And I said, "You're a cop. Look at this." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I don't know. It was enough. It was big. It was 10 foot tall, and I don't know if it was a Wendigo. It was almost transparent, like almost spiritual. I don't know. But all I know is it had horns coming out of his head. It had horns coming out of his shoulders and stuff. And I'm looking at Todd, and I'm like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't freaking out. I just looked at Todd, and I said, "You know what? I'm not sticking around here. We're out of here." But I didn't know. This thing was huge. I seen a big Bigfoot at my time. I seen a 9-footer. This thing was bigger than that, and like I said, with the horns and it was creepy. And I'm like, okay, we're gone, we're out. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that was Wendigo, but it had the horns like one. So if they do have horns, that creepiest thing I've ever experienced.
I don't blame you. That would be very creepy seeing something weird like that. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that in the woods. So
you don't want to.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
I've seen the orbs and stuff like that everybody talks about, and they relate to Bigfoots. Well, there's a thing that's a cryptic creature. I don't know if it's called will-o'-the-wisp. I don't know if you ever heard of those or not, which are blue orbs. And I can like before we went on air, I told you I use common sense and logic, and everybody wants to make them spiritual. And there's the Bigfoot had this glowing orb. Well, if they're both cryptids, they both live in the wilderness. Why can't they coexist? And I ain't gonna say they're buddies, but you know what I'm saying? That sure, why not?
I'm fully behind. I have seen basketball-sized blue orbs in the woods. My mom has seen a bunch of orbs and stuff up at the hiding adventure and that, and all over. And I just don't like when people, like you said, associate. Well, I was out there Bigfooting and I saw these orbs, so they must be connected. Like you said, there's so many things out there. So many different cultures and lore and legends and creatures and stuff that we may not know about that, these things could be related, but they could be very well two completely separate things. Just because you're out there looking for one doesn't mean something else. Like take, for example, if you're out there deer hunting and a Bigfoot walks out, do you associate Bigfoot as being a deer? No, of course not.
No, that's how I had two of my sightings, by the way.
Oh, well, we are live here, so if anybody has any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in here. But yeah, share your stories, please.
The first one, again, northern Michigan, just Meskwaki County, just next county over from Wexford. And it was about the same time in '89, and I think like a year after, I was going with my buddy, and his father-in-law had 125 acres up there. And I was hunting this spot where they used to grow Christmas trees. It's like northern Michigan. Well, he didn't want them, so they cut all those up. And that was probably the first 20 acres. And back in the corner, the best way I could put an example was the clear cut. There was an apple tree. It was in the far corner. So if you look at the way it was kind of shaped like the state of Pennsylvania. And you know how it has a little panhandle, like where the Erie, PA. Well, there was a spot like that, and right in the middle of that was one lone apple tree. You're Wisconsin. I don't know if you hunt or not, but apple tree, deer. Okay, I know where I'm hunting. I know where the pond is. I'm right in between. My brother. He said he's going way back in Hardwick. Oh, you got me in Hardwick. I'm going where the food is. You go. Anyway, between my brother and I, we were maybe 100 yards apart. There was just a little clearing, a little holler there, and some pop trees. I'm got my stance up as the tree, and I'm hearing this noise, and I look behind me, and I see this thing shaking this tree. And at first, I'm thinking black bear. At first, I thought my brother. And what are you doing? And I'm like, no, it was about 5 foot tall and black, and I'm like, no, I'm not imagine that. It's a bear. I started laughing. The sun kind of perked out because it's early morning and hit that area. Just a beam light hit that area. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because, bears, they have paws. They don't have hands. And a bear to shake a tree like that. And like I said, it was just a little popple tree, probably, maybe that big around, So a bear would have to push it to shake it.
Mm-hmm.
It had a grip. And right then I knew, it says, that's a Bigfoot. And I was still kind of laughing, like, wow. But then again, I also had an arrow knocked up. I said, you stay there. But it had to be a juvenile. It was maybe 5.5 foot tall. And then I heard a noise towards the apple tree. So I went back, looking at the apple tree. And I looked back and it was gone. Then we were walking off. What were you doing to that tree? I said, me? I thought that was you. He goes, no, it was a bear. I said, no, it wasn't a bear. He doesn't believe in, this stuff. So we just left it at that. That was my first sighting up there. That was, my next one was a couple years later, and those were in Ohio. But yeah, that was, yep.
It's interesting because, I've had a thermal encounter, and I saw these two eye shine. And again, they weren't like reflecting of light. When you hit them with a flashlight, they got brighter, but otherwise you could just see these eyes glowing off in the woods. And I got it on thermal. And
thermal?
No, the whole animal in thermal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so we're watching this thing, and it's not moving. It's just kind of like turning its head like this, like looking at us with like one eye at a time, kind of just standing there. And we're like, what is that? It doesn't look like a deer. It doesn't, I don't know what the heck this thing is. And same as you hear this noise off over here. And I'm like, I don't care what that is. If it comes out at me, I'll figure it out in a minute. But I'm not looking away from this thing. And then it got closer, and it got closer, and I'm getting kind of freaked out. Like, okay, this thing is coming towards me. I should probably look and see what it is. And I turned the thermal over there to look. Didn't see anything. Turned back, and whatever this thing was had moved off. Now we were looking at down a shooting lane. So it actually ended up crossing the second shooting lane. So we picked it up again, but it was way farther back. Like it was trying to creep off or whatever it was, but again, here's this thing that we're watching, and the noise comes and it takes off as soon as you look away. So I think it's a, two of them, and the one realizes that you're watching its kid, its mate, whatever it happens to be. And it's like, hey, look over here until you do. And then, okay, get the heck out of there, but.
It's possible. I know, they're probably single Bigfoots, but I do think they live in a community type setting, maybe like mom, dad, children, or whatever. Kind of like, a lot of animals do, like deer do, see, you draw up something made me wonder, because last year when I saw that thing, whatever it was in the woods, I couldn't pick up. I didn't have my thermal then. Now you got my curiosity up, because can I put that on my thermal? On the infrared. But I think they have scouts. Like when they rest, I do think they're nocturnal. It's again my theory, my speculation. So I think during the day there's scouts, that's watching over the I don't know what you might call them, a pack or a family, whatever, So who knows? Like I said,
with only being 5 foot, you would think that one would have been a juvenile. So you got like either mama or daddy over here going, hey, leave my kid alone. He's making too much noise. And as soon as you take your eyes off it, it's like, okay, you were naughty. Now get the heck out of there before he finds you,
My theory, I think, I've seen 3. I've seen that young one. It was black. It was black, like it was black. The second one I saw was huge. It was huge. That was in southern Ohio, in an area called Tar Hollow. That was every bit 9 foot, if not more. And in Tar Hollow, they have, you're getting into the foothills of the Appalachians. Appalachians there. As a crow flies, it was maybe 125, 135 yards from me. If you were to walk it, is probably over 300 yards because you got to walk down one hill, down the valley, walk up the next ridge to where it walked. I was in a ground blind deer hunting, again, deer hunting. And where I walked the valley in, and then it forked off. And I set up right there so I can, see this way in the valley. I can see that way in the valley. I can see right in front of me. I had it set up. I'm like, this is it. I'm bringing home some back straps. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, like I said, I was in that valley where on this side, you see where he was walking up. He was huge. I'm like, wow. And I'm in the ground blind. I'm like, okay. Wow. I mean, I could hear him. I could feel it. And he was 150 yards away. He was this big, huge red thing. And he was just like, I mean, he was it. And that freaked me out. And I'm like, I'm glad I got a 1 ounce slug here because in Ohio you can only use a slug. I wasn't freaking out. I mean, I wasn't super scared, but I was nervous. I was like, you stay over there, we'll stay over here. But then he went over top, and then he was gone. And I've talked to enough friends of mine and stuff over the years that I think out of all of them, I think the red ones are the aggressive ones. That's just from what I have gathered with the information I have, talking to other people on their sightings. Everybody seems to, the aggressive ones seem to be the red ones. But then I also heard the grays or the whites can be, but again, that's just my theory. So I mean, of course, as well as everything is theory and speculation. So, but my third one, I was a truck driver for years. I worked nights, and where I worked, I lived just outside of Toledo, Ohio, just west of Toledo, and where I worked was in a little small town called Montpelier, which is about 50 miles west of Toledo. So I commute from here to there, back and forth. And small town mountain country. And I was pulling out of a terminal. On the back of their yard is an old abandoned railroad track. They cut it over to a footpath, and they call it the Wabash Trail. Well, back in the corner, there's a patch of woods. And I was pulling out onto the road, and I'm like, halfway out the road, and I just looked down that trail, and right on the edge of the woods, perfect silhouette. I mean, you see the silhouettes of, of Bigfoot, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, and I stopped, and I'm looking at it, but, like everybody, however, that's a good picture. Shock and awe factor, and then I was like, whoop, I heard these sirens, and it was Ohio Patrol. What are you doing? I'm like, look. He looked. And I'm not going to say what he said, a few choice words. And he's like, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. And he's like, wow. That's putting it nicely from what he said was wow, but he couldn't really tell me either. But, and I had 2 Black Panther sightings too. I've had some weird experiences, man.
Where were your Black Panther sightings?
See, in Ohio, the way I go, because I basically ran from Northwest Ohio to Columbus, Ohio, which is basically center state. And because I was working at that time out of Montpelier, I took 2-lane roads, And so the route I would take, it just cut through the middle of the state heading towards there. There's a little town called Mount Victory, a little over halfway down to Columbus. And just a little route 31 in Ohio. And I just seen it run across in front of me. And I knew what I saw because the whole body was feline, and its tail was like a big, long, almost as long as the body, round, like a big cat, like a broomstick, rounded tip and everything. I mean, it was like, one leap, gone. It's like, wow. And about a year later, I'm thinking it was the same one. I saw another thing, same scenario in the same general location, same thing, bloop, bloop, gone. And I'm like, it was not, you can tell it had feline features. It had the feline head, it had that long tail, long, sleek body. Again, I wasn't like that close to on the edge of my life, but you could tell what it was. So I was like, that, I tell you, that was that made me put dash cams in my cars and vehicles just for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just, I don't know if I'm fortunate or unlucky, but, but I keep an open mind, and, being a hunter, I'm always looking. It's just, I have it, a trait, just, you live in Wisconsin, you probably do the same thing at driving night. You're going to be looking for deer or what have you, bear or what have you. I don't know, if you have any, but yeah, it's just, that's, being a truck driver for 40 years before I retired, that's just a habit, so yeah, I saw a lot of weird stuff.
Very interesting. That's awesome. I highly recommend the dash cam thing. Although I have seen some things on dash cam. I mean, not Bigfoot or nothing, but like let's say deer across the road, and I've gone back and looked on the dash cam, and it's so small and fuzzy on there that it's like, because at night your headlights only go so far, and your IR,
Right.
the infrared of your dash cam only goes so far. So I mean, you really almost got to have a daylight sighting of anything for a dash cam to help much anyway. But it's better to have
it's like a mirror. It goes over your mirror, and I call Mickey Mouse. It's got the camera is below it, and you can pivot it 350 degrees if you turn 50 or what. And the resolution on it is really good. I have another one similar that actually can put a back camera, like a backup camera on it too. But the screen monitor is built into the mirror, and the one I have, it's just maybe 1x2 monitor, and it's in the right corner, so it doesn't impair your vision on the mirror. Or the other one, it's on the left side, and it's probably maybe 2x2, and that just takes up two of the mirror. But I'll use that because a lot of times that's kind of how I got started Bigfoot. I have all these dash cameras. I had the one in the front, and then I got the big LED lights on my Jeep, and then I point two off to the side, one like, to the east or to the left, to the right, and this other one I got that says, I can look forward, and it has an attachment I can look back. And I'll do that. I'll just drive around the back roads, these back dirt roads, real slow, because what's one of the main sightings? Roadside. That's, I'll try anything once. So
you never know. You can't find them sitting on your couch. You got to get out there. So absolutely.
I don't think they're paranormal. I think they're flesh and blood. That's, because I haven't experienced, like, I don't, people say they walk through portals or they just disappear. I know, like I said earlier, the shock and awe factor when you see one.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a thing that I learned. I don't know the scientific name. We call it matrixing. You see something, you can't comprehend what you see. Your mind's going to fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And I think that happens when people say, "Oh, they do this," and then they want to get nasty about, "Oh, I'm not doubting you. I haven't experienced that."
Mm-hmm.
I think when people say they disappear, I don't think they do. Like I said, a flesh and blood. I think they drop down on all fours, spider crawl. If you ever heard them doing that, I think, like any animal wilderness, they're going to use their habitat to their advantage. I think they drop down on all fours, spider crawl, use the ground cover for, to hide them. But, just my theory.
I think that's why a lot of people have a problem with tracking footprints and stuff too. Like they say there's a footprint and that just disappears, but people don't necessarily look for knuckle prints,
Right.
So if these things are down on all fours, which we hear a lot of stories of them crawling around like that, like you said, if they go on their knuckles or up on the edge of their toes, or even, you're not looking for a big flat foot like everyone thinks you're going to find out in the woods. And I think that that's why people are missing a lot of these, the trackways and stuff, possibly.
Let me throw this. I think, if they're as strong as, and we've seen the videos where they throw, big old tree trunks that'll be this big around, and they'll throw them 50 feet or more, they have strength. I think they climb. My area, a lot of sightings, we're in trees. And this is just a theory, I think they can leap. If they have all this strength to run and do all this stuff and run vertical and up cliffs, why can't they leap? Like be somewhere and said they're going to leap over to throw you off. Something they've learned, from, because I'm sure they've seen man over the 100,000 years they've been, and they know we're the most dangerous thing in the woods. They know, and I use this just as an example, like Gettysburg, okay? How many lives were lost in Gettysburg? Thousands and thousands. Bigfoot saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, this is just my theory. I think they saw that. And that ain't first thing. And they know we're destructive. We're killers. We kill each other. And they know that over the years they learned and taught their offsprings to avoid the white man. I think they did trade at some time with the Native Americans, or I'm sorry, I'm not politically correct. So whatever, the indigenous people, or, First Nation, whatever you want to call them, that didn't forget. I think they probably did. But then we came along and they're like, wow, these people are destructive. Again, that's just my thoughts, my theory. I don't know if they're true or not. It's just, like I said, common sense logic makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely a good point. I mean, yeah, I haven't heard anyone make that argument before about watching our destructive ways, but we know that, from stories and stuff passed down from the First Nation indigenous people, like you said, that when the white man came, they were saying, well, they were trading with those people, the natives and that. And the natives said, we don't want you to befall the same way we have. So you need to, take off and go live. Otherwise, they're going to, attack you as well. And so exactly what you said, they're watching what we've done to everyone else in around the world even, and they don't want nothing to do with it. So.
Yeah, and every said, well, they're different here and there. I think they're all the same. The skunk ape, the Ohio grass man, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, like all animals, all creatures, I don't know if you want to comment, people get defensive to that. You adapt to your habitat. You adapt to your surroundings. Mm-hmm. That's what I think they do. That's what I think they may be larger in other areas. But deer are the same way. You go south, deer are small. Yeah, in our area, deer are big. It depends, the habitat, what they have to eat, the minerals in the ground itself. I think that all plays a factor. And why, they vary, and maybe in their attitudes too. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a truck driver going out in the woods looking for answers, I mean, but like I said, I just, like I don't think they just disappear like people say. Mm-hmm. I think like a deer, you probably know enough. A deer in the field, you see them, they're pretty brown. You get in the woods with the right light, they're kind of gray. Mm-hmm. And a deer, all you gotta do is just turn your head, turn back, and they're gone. They're not gone. They may have walked 3 or 4 steps, but they blend into their surroundings. I think Bigfoot do the same thing. Maybe they drop to the ground, go behind a tree. Because, how many times in your people they saying still like a statue? Right lighting and stuff, they're going to blend in with their environment. You can't, that's what I think they're masters at.
Absolutely. We've done some experiments with my team in that. I've been out in the woods and taken a picture, and I'll post it on our Instagram, and I ask people how many deer are in this photo. And you can kind of see like 2 of them are like right in the middle, and people are like, oh, there's 3 or 4. There's 7 in that picture. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing to look at and go, oh, they're, like you just don't see them until they move. And then they'll walk out and move, and it's like they're right there. There's 7 of these things. We just kept counting them, and the picture shows maybe like 2 of them. But when you start pointing them out, they're all there, really clear as day that you right out in the open. But they're hard to see. So,
well, that's like and I do this a lot. I get controversial. People get mad at me because I'm kind of straightforward. I mean, I'm not going to get belligerent on people, nothing, but. I have this big issues with the red circle. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah. And I did experience because so many people, I call it the placebo effect. People say, oh, take a picture. You see it? Do you see it? Put a circle around. Oh, do you see it now? Oh, I see it. Well, of course you do, because they just planted that placebo in you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? They planted that. So yeah, I've done it. Like I'll at dusk. I'll take a picture of a cedar sapling or a pine sapling tree. Just take a picture of it. In the dark, so it's kind of dark, and and I'm like, "Do you see it? Oh my God, where'd you see that? How tall is that Bigfoot?" It's not a Bigfoot, you idiot. I won't say idiot, but I'm saying, it's not a Bigfoot. That's a tree. No, that's a Bigfoot. I can see its head, its shoulders. No, man, that's a pine tree. I see it every day. This is my point that you guys, and guys who post those pictures, they hate me for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't do it. If you're not sure, don't post it. Maybe I'm a jerk for being that way. I just come on, man. That's why tree structures. I went for one. I got pictures of some teepees, tree bends. Okay, nature does probably 95% of the tree bends, but then there's a lot of times I'll take pictures of big ones, little ones, because it depends on the situation. Like the other day, I took a picture of one. It was just a sapling. I did twice. And it was tucked underneath a log that was probably 12-inch diameter, not a big one, but that way. And that log is gray. It's been there so long that it's turned gray. You can see where they took a chainsaw, cut the end of it off, clear away, the path, trail, where it was cut off. That's gray. Or you would see the rings, that's gray. And here's the sapling, still green, still had green leaves, but it's tucked underneath that. Now, I know that tree's been laying there forever because you can tell. How did that sapling get tucked underneath that tree?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody could probably just walk up path and done it, but why would they? Unless they're just kids playing around. Another one I saw was, most tree saplings you see are like bend at one end and then straightened out, right? Well, I come across this one. It was a complete U. It's like, well, that's weird. And I'm watching, I can think as well, maybe part of it got bent from ice, and then it got bent again from ice. But the weird thing is this was off a trail not far from here. The DNR or park maintenance, whatever, right by the trail, they had, an orange flag, the little marker flag, the little, like probably 4 square inch flag on it, what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there was another one right underneath that bend tree, the one that was shaped like a U. And granted, this was in a state nature preserve, so you're not allowed off the trail, because where I live is a unique area. And just beyond it was another orange flag, all in a straight low. And I'm like, well, that's fascinating. I mean, I'm not trying to, make any conspiracy or anything. I just thought that was kind of weird, fascinating. But I got pictures of a tree bend that was a big tree, probably that big around, and it's 20 feet long. You can see where it's been, but then they took 2 other trees, crisscrossed it at the other end to keep that bend in it. Now, no man, I don't care if the arms strong enough to bend that tree down like that, hold it down, and then, this was a couple of big, and then put those other 2 to brace it down like that. I can text you pictures, show you those pictures like that. Like the teepee structure. Again, the teepee structure, and I did go off trail. I mean, these are logs. These were logs that were, you probably can't see. I mean, they were trees, man. And they were 20, 30 foot long. And they were set up as a teepee structure. No man is going to pick something up that big. And you could tell they were all stacked teepee structure. And it's like, and then a few weeks later, it's gone. And I'm like, I got pictures of that too. So luckily I did get pictures of that. But something like that just doesn't disappear. So either maybe a park maintenance or whatever took them out because of it or something. Because like I said, I live in a weird area. The place was metropole for oak openings. And they're called the oak openings region, which runs basically northwest Ohio all the way up to Detroit Metro Airport off of 94, if you ever flown in or out of there. This is a big area. It's a lot of woods. It's swampy, and there's like 165 native plant species just to the oak opening. So it's a real tender area. They don't like you going off the path because 165 native, and there's 2 native salamander species only native to the oak openings region, and a snake that's native. So that's why it's a tread lightly area. But then again, I hear a lot of. We have prickly pear cactus grow wild here because it's a big giant floating sand dune from Lake Erie and all that stuff over the years, But we have the prickly pears, the little round saucer shaped ones. They grow wild here. I know they grow wild other places, but you think of that, you think of desert Southwest, So it's a unique area. A lot of weird history here, so. But it's just never a dull moment.
Awesome. Well, we are coming up here on the end of the show. I want to invite everyone. We are live, so if you have any last-minute questions or comments that you'd like to get in the show, throw them in the comments section, and we'll get them in here before we wrap up. Lee's just kind of saying that the redheads are very aggressive, and I think these comments are especially redheaded humans. Thanks, Lee. She's calling me out here. Lee, I'll get you back. Anyway, yeah, so you have
aren't you a ginger? A redhead ginger, man.
She has made several. Lee is one of my regulars here at the backstage and stuff here, and she's made very, very regular ginger comments to me. So yes, I'm sure that's where that was directed. But yeah, so you have a YouTube channel. Tell everybody, we have it in the show notes for anybody interested. You can go check it out. But what can people get there, and what's it all about?
My YouTube channel is called Bigfoot Recon on YouTube. We're not like we don't take a scientific approach. You're not going to hear us whispering in the woods, being all scientific. We're not philosophical. We don't. It's just 2 guys walking in the woods having a good time. We're not loud. We don't take a scientific approach. Everybody's doing that. We're just 2 guys in the woods having a good time. We are looking. We find something, and we found footprints, stuff. We post all that, but yeah, that's all we are. We just take a subtle approach to it because everybody wants to be, sound intellectual and philosophical and educated. No, man, we're just a couple of redneck old truck drivers just having fun. Because think about it, folks. All your sightings are what? People walking on a trail, hiking, talking like we're talking. Boom, Bigfoot. Or they're camping, and I take my grandson with me a lot because, Bigfoot are fascinated by women and kids camping, which a few weeks ago we were at Salt Fork. We had all kinds of noises behind us. But that's the approach. Or we do a lot at night where we'll just drive around back in the middle of the woods. Because like I said, we try to take the approach of being common, common people sightings, roadside sightings, just walking, carrying on, having a good time on the trail. Camping, we try not to think about Bigfooting when we go out. Because, if you look, you're not going to see it. Expect it when you least expect it. So that's the kind of approach we try to take. And, our thing is my videos, I don't edit them because I haven't learned how to do that yet, but I will. We do it for people who can't get out, be it, physical handicap, age, whatever. Maybe they live in a big city and they've never been out country. So that's the approach we take. We take them with us and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I don't hold the camera on me, or I'm waving the camera around. Say, hey, I'm looking this way. I'm waving the camera. If I see something, leave a comment. I might miss something. You guys might see it. That's what I do. And we just, we're not mountain monsters, but then again, we're not, Expedition Bigfoot or anything else neither, we're not, we're just, like I said, 2 guys, just, and the way we look at things is different. Like, people say, they affiliate them with UFOs. I don't do that. Because I'll make it quick, and then we're out of time here. they say Bigfoot are inquisitive. And when it comes to UFOs, I'm going to put it to you this way, folks. Just think about what I'm saying, okay? They're curious. They're inquisitive. Everybody says that about the Bigfoot. Let me put it to you this way. We all know you get into the woods. They know you're there. If you're at home, you're sitting in your house, 10 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden it's instant daylight in all your windows. Aren't you going to be curious? Are you going to not go outside and see what that light is? Well, think about it. Don't you think Bigfoot would do the same if a UFO comes over, the bright light? Don't you think they're going to go, what the hell is that? Sorry for language. You see what I mean? That's how I think of things. That's how I think they approach things. They're curious like us. So, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's beat me up, Scotty. I just think, that's just the way I look at it.
Absolutely. I think that goes for flashlights in the woods too. They're like, what is that bouncing orb of light that's moving through the woods?
Yeah, I think so. Well, like I said earlier, I don't know if we're on the show or not, talking about the will-o'-the-wisp. Oh, they're walking. That's supposed to be a cryptid creature. So, yeah, they exist together. I can see that. There are spirituals. I go hunting, Bigfoot in Southern Ohio. Southern Ohio, we got Serpentine Mountain. I'm sure you heard of that. Mm-hmm. That's a spiritual place. Down on there, we had the Adena Indians that were, 300 BC, and we got all those Indian burial mounds, like I said, Serpentine Mounds. So, yeah, I can see orbs around those areas. I don't know if those are burial mounds or I don't know if they are. You can't excavate them because they're all protected now. I mean, private lands people do, but that's how I look. I just use common sense and logic. I don't want to make it supernatural, super, paranormal, or anything like that. I just, that's how I am. But I am open-minded. People say they experienced it. Maybe they did. I haven't, so I can't say.
It's a good way to look at it. Yep.
Keeps it easy. Less brain drain.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Lee is the only one that wants to chat today. So Lee says, I am her favorite ginger and that she is jealous and always wanted to be a ginger. And that's why. So awesome.
I'm partial to women, but not you. If you know what I mean. Yeah, it's my type.
I'm all right with that.
Good. No pronouns here. No offense. I'm not getting political. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. Not a problem. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your stories and all of your experiences and stuff. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, I appreciate it, Barney. I had fun. This was good. I hope we can stay in touch and maybe sooner we can get together sometime. We're not really that far apart.
Mm-hmm.
Next month, I'm going to be up in Lake County, Michigan for a few days for a little event we're having up there. So, but I can keep you all posted if anything happens. If I experience anything, I know how to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, no problem.
All right, well, you take care. Have a great day and best of luck on all your adventures.
You too, my friend. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. I will see you guys if you're going to be out in Illinois this weekend. We'll be in Gaze, Illinois. I will be live as well, hopefully this Thursday before we head out on the paranormal spectrum. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share all things here on the Untold Radio Network, all things cryptids, anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, and head on over to Bigfoot Recon on YouTube and check out his channel. Robert today. So until next time, guys, I'll see you on the edge.